On the Foster Denovo Talks podcast, I'm joined by Daniella Humble, our People and Culture Manager. Starting her career at the Wimbledon Championships, she tells us how Foster Denovo's culture trumps the centre court crowds.
We have a fantastic culture, and I think when we're looking at acquisitions, it starts at the very beginning. So our CEO, Roger Brosh, is very good at making sure that any businesses that we're interested in, our culture is aligned. And if you just take people and culture as it sounds, it's making sure that people are at the centre of everything we do, and culture, that our culture is maintained as we grow and remains, because that's a really important thing. It's all about continuous improvement. There's always things that we can be doing better to support our staff.
So do listen in for her insights on how our culture is at the centre of what we do. Danny, welcome to Foster Denovo Talks podcast. You're our latest guest. So as we do with all the guests, let's start at the beginning. So how did you get into HR?
Yeah, why not? Well, thank you very much for having me, Paddy. I'm very excited to be here. So back to the beginning then. So we're going back about 9 years now. So like many people, I sort of fell into HR. And I graduated university and I didn't know really what I wanted to do. And so I signed up to work at the Wimbledon Championships for 2 weeks in hospitality. I thought that sounds fun, I'll do that. And I stayed on afterwards to help them with their year-round events. And I got on really well with the lovely HR team that worked there. And so they said to me, Danny, do you fancy helping us with a bit of admin? And I thought, okay, why not? I'll give it a try. And I quickly realised that I really enjoyed it. I loved the people focus. I was supporting them with onboarding new members of staff and helping with interviews. And yeah, I just really enjoyed it. And I thought, this is something I'm quite interested and passionate about. And so I began my search for a generalist HR administrator role so I could get to learn a bit more about what HR was all about.
So how long were you at Wimbledon before you came here? What led you to here from Wimbledon? What was the interim?
Yeah, so I think I was there about 2 years. And really it was the search for that generalist role. So I saw an advert go out from Foster Denovo and I applied. And the rest is history, really. So back then the team was much smaller. There was only a couple of us, and it meant that I got big exposure to all of HR. So the entire employee life cycle, but also payroll and benefits. So that was really interesting.
So you did get the general experience you wanted.
Yes.
That led to you, joining FD.
Yes.
And that was how many years ago?
Yeah, so that was about 8 years ago now. And then I very quickly progressed to an HR assistant role. And this was really exciting because this was when we implemented and embedded our brand new HR system, the Hive as we know it today. And this meant I was really actively involved in looking at all of our processes. How can we make them more efficient, less admin heavy, and digitalise everything? So back then we were working with paper employee folders and I was having to scan things in. And now we're completely paperless as a department. So that was really exciting exposure to a lot of things. And then very kindly, Foster Denovo supported me with doing my level 5 CIPD qualification. So I did this on Wednesday afternoons. And halfway through that, the COVID pandemic hit. And really, I think that was quite integral in my career because it really pushed me out of my comfort zone. So very quickly, we were having to obviously move everyone to home working. It was not something that we'd done before. Seems crazy now, but it wasn't. Wellbeing support was massive. And we were also having to keep up to speed with ever-changing legislation with words like furlough. We'd never heard of that before. So yeah, it really pushed me out of my comfort zone and just made me learn very quickly.
And I suppose it showed,
great.
didn't it, the central aspects of HR in any growing organisation or any organisation come to that. So
Yes.
we lead to where you are now, which is, I think, People and Culture Manager, isn't it? Which is a different kind of title.
Yes.
What does that involve day to day for people who just see HR and think one thing and then they see People and Culture? What's the difference?
Yes. So currently my job title is People and Culture Manager, which I've been recently promoted to. And my role really, I'm responsible for making sure that all the operations in our team is working efficiently. I manage the team, so I've got 2 people advisors and a people administrator reporting into me. I also give lots of support to our managers, so making sure they're all trained in their roles. Support Lou with implementing our strategy. And I'm also very actively involved in a very exciting area of the business, which is our acquisitions, all the way through, and making sure they're then integrated once they start with us.
Yeah, which has been, hasn't it? It's been, that again, that's become a central part of the story of Foster Denovo, is the companies that come to us, join us, and help us move forward, isn't it?
It has, yes.
And do you think people and culture? Could you talk a bit more about that and the difference that makes? Is it a step change in something?
It is, yes. So we recently rebranded ourselves. So we used to be known as HR. And I don't know about you, Paddy, but I've never really liked the term human resources. Sounds a bit like human remains. So it also didn't really reflect what we do as a team. We are not really a back office function. We are very much in and amongst the business. And if you just take people and culture as it sounds, it's making sure that people are at the centre of everything we do, and culture, that our culture is maintained as we grow. And remains, because that's a really important thing. So yes.
Yeah, that seems to be a more inspired way to describe what you do and the role you play. So is there a system you had to put in place for people and culture in order to, as a growing corporate entity, that you have to move forward with? Are there pillars, I think you talked about?
Yes. So as part of that rebrand from HR to people and culture, we have published to all of our staff a people and culture strategy. And this means that all of our staff know exactly what we're aiming to achieve and how we're going to do that under each of the pillars. And I can break those down for you if you like.
Yeah,
I perfect. So within the strategy, there's 6 pillars. All are as important as each other. But it starts really with HR operations, so the backbone of our department. So making sure that our systems and processes can support the strategy. The second pillar is inclusivity. So important that we have a diverse workforce, which represents our communities. And also, most importantly, that all employees have equal opportunities as well. So that's the second pillar. Our third pillar is engagement. So making sure that our fantastic staff are rewarded for what they're doing and recognised for that. We also have a wellbeing pillar. So it's really important. Everyone goes through hard times and we want to make sure that our employees are supported with that. Also a pillar on talent. It's one of my favourite pillars. So that pillar is all about how we attract the correct talent, and once they're here, we keep them and we make sure that we're developing them. And finally, real core pillar, I could say that about all of them really, but leadership. So making sure that we have a consistent approach to leadership across the business.
Gosh, well, that's really impressive that you can recall all 6. I guess, without looking at any notes, that's fantastic. But it just shows, I think, how carefully you've thought about it and what it means to the wider business that you've integrated them in this way. So I think again, that's something that will interest a lot of our colleagues and those people watching this from outside the business, that we've got that priority for what you do. And I guess one of the aspects, isn't it, that demonstrates the impact of the role that you and your team and your colleagues have had is our Investors in People story, isn't it? Now we've reached platinum status, which is quite an accolade, isn't it?
Yes, it's certainly one of the highlights of my career so far. So I'm really lucky. I've been with Foster Denovo over that whole journey. So we got bronze in my first year of working here, and we've obviously worked all the way to platinum. And one of the things I think is great about the accreditation is that it's about continuously improving your people development. And that's something I think comes quite naturally to our team. So both myself and my manager, Louise, we don't really like to sit still. We like to be innovative. How can we do things better? How can we better support our team? And Investors in People is all about that, really. So one of the things that I think is fantastic that came out of Investors in People is we looked at how we train our managers. How do we empower our managers to do a brilliant job? And we launched something called Management Matters. So Management Matters is made up of our quarterly management training. So anyone within the business that is promoted into a role that will have management as part of that goes on our management training, which I run. It's one of my favourite parts of my job. They go on that quarterly training, and it's made up of interactive sessions with other people that are aspiring managers. And then after that, they're supported very heavily by my people and culture team by making sure that they have management check-ins with our people advisor, Danielle. So she makes sure that they feel really confident in their role for the first sort of 6 months until we pass that over to their manager. One of the other exciting things we do as part of Management Matters is we have quarterly management newsletters. So these go out and they really capture what's trending in HR. You know, what should managers be aware of? Are there any common things that they should look at to make sure they're supporting their staff? And we get really good feedback from that. So yes, it's something that came out of Investors in People.
And I guess that comes to the point, doesn't it? That there's the belief, or otherwise, that you're either a born manager or you're a made manager. But clearly there's a lot of work goes in it to support people to get to where they want to go and to where the business wants them, isn't it? And as that business grows like ours, what are the challenges that you see within of keeping the culture that you've articulated very well as we move on?
Yeah, so we have a fantastic culture. And I think when we're looking at acquisitions, it starts at the very beginning. So our CEO, Roger Brosh, is very good at making sure that any businesses that we're interested in, our culture is aligned. So the hard work's done at the beginning. But then once employees join us, we do culture assessments. So we run these roughly every 90 days. We get really high participation rates from our staff. So over 80% of people complete the survey. And we sit within the highest category on that. It's an external provider that we use called Empowered. And one of the things that we do is our whole people and culture team will go through all of the comments in the survey, all of the trends, and we'll highlight key themes across the survey. And that really helps us drive our people and culture strategy. Because we identify the things that we can improve on. You know, it's all about continuous improvement. There's always things that we can be doing better to support our staff. And so we look for key themes, and then we put out something called a 90-day pledge. So whatever has come up within that survey, we pledge to do better. And I think that's really, really important. But that makes sure really that our culture remains, because that is a culture assessment. So yes.
And the assessment you talk about, you obviously get good feedback for it, don't you? So you do see an output coming in for all the input that you've done. So that must be satisfying from your
really
perspective.
Really rewarding, yes. We know that our team has done a good job if the things that were coming up in the previous survey don't come up again, because we've improved things. So yes.
In terms of that, as people come in, you talked earlier about wanting to make sure that you attract the best people because of the culture and wanting to retain them now. So as we grow and as we've got different companies and we're in a competitive industry and market, what do you think is key to people, A, staying here, and B, thinking they've got a future here and believing that?
I think it's so important. You know, people want careers. So I think this is something we do really well, Paddy, and I think I can say that really confidently. So we have the average length of service of our staff is over 5 years. And it's quite rare for a company like ours with a lot of administrator roles to have such a long service, because lots of people in this day and age want to move on quickly to the next opportunity. But we can offer that. So where it starts is we encourage our managers to have monthly continuous performance reviews with their team. So on a monthly basis, they sit down and talk about their development. And from this, we also encourage them to put together personal development plans. So what do people want to do in the next 2 years, 3 years, 5 years? We can see if we can make that happen. We've also published career paths. So it's really clear what their journey could look like in FD, not just within their department, but almost more importantly, across the organisation. So we have lots of people that jump from one department to another. And that's really important. You know, it makes us agile as a company and it makes us able to respond to change. So I think that's something that we do really, really well.
And that's quite unusual, I think, because I think a lot of companies, tend to silo specialists in one particular place rather than give them, a broad exposure to everything the group does. So I think that's a really strong point for anyone watching, isn't it?
It is really strong. And I know that you'll be interviewing lots of people that have gone through that process, and you can see how their careers developed within the company.
Yeah, it's really interesting. And I think having talked about where you started and how it's progressed, and now we've gone from HR, which you called a name, some people call it, and now we're people and culture. I guess, and you say you never sit still. So what do you think, what's the next big thing on the horizon?
Yes, so I think key is making sure that everything we've set out to achieve in our people and culture strategy is achieved. And that's evolving. It might change as the years go on. I think, we've spoken a lot about it today, but maintaining our culture is really key, and also the engagement of our people. And I think because we're such an innovative company, there's lots of change at the moment. We need to become change experts, and that's something that we're working on at the moment. But yeah, all exciting stuff.
Yeah, well, I guess that's the only constant, isn't it? Change. And I think it's something that you've shown that we're living through, and we're going to keep doing. So thanks so much, Danny. It's been fascinating.
Oh, it's been great to be here. Thank you very much, Paddy.